Alright, so we're working on the 3210Vs. This magneto is bad in this engine. That one runs and drives. I think what I'm going to have to do is... But the problem with this one is So this one runs and drives. The pulleys are very worn on the transaxle. And that wheel is falling off. Now I could fix that, and I will, but I need to cut the grass, and I could just cut the grass with how it is, or I could just put that engine into this lawn tractor. So on this lawn tractor, the magneto on the motor failed, no spark. So we got the motor pulled, because you have to pull the motor to replace the magneto anyways, which sucks, but it doesn't matter. It's pulled. I'm just going to pull this motor out of this tractor, put it in here. Who cares about serial numbers? Because this tractor overall is in a much better shape. It has the original tank. The paint is a lot better. The wood grain is a lot better. I just cleaned all the grass out and put some orange down in the engine bay. It's not the right orange. It's the wrong Alice Chalmers orange, because this is Simplicity and that's an Alice Chalmers orange. So they're different, and that's also really old paint. But there's some protective farm enamel on there, just because there was a bunch of bare metal in this particular area. But all the grass is gone. All that is set. I also noticed that these two bolts were loose, which hold the front axle on the steering assembly. So pulled those out. Gotta get nuts for those and tighten it up. And then the worst part about pulling this motor was getting the pulley off for the snowblower, but we got it off without breaking it, which is nice. And then we are going to be swapping these. I think we're gonna put this grill assembly on that tractor, because with the using the front PTO can sometimes chew up down here, and it did on this front grill. Chewed up the sticker and all that, and it's kind of rough. Doesn't really match the tractor. So basically, the two tractors are actually in. This one's a little more beat, but they're not that far off as far as condition. So I'm going to take my best parts from one of them, put them all on the one tractor, and then eventually we're going to restore the worst tractor. We're going to make the pulleys better. This one needs the bevel gearbox rebuilt too. But we're going to pull this one apart. I got to fix the steering on this. The bushing slipped, so the steering wheel does that. This one's a little hard to get out of third. It's a little stiff. An issue with these transaxles is when they wear out, sometimes they can you can engage 2 gears at once if you shift too fast. But anyways, this is going to be the nice tractor that we're going to run in the summertime for like cutting grass, and that one's going to be the work tractor. So that one's going to be it's got the tiller attachment on the back, and it's going to have the snowblower on the front of it and stuff like that. And this one is going to be for cutting the grass. We're going to swap the seats because the lawn is really rough. So, because that seat's got springs behind it, this is just a flat pan just bolted right onto it. So we're going to put the cushioned seat, the more supportive seat on this tractor. Hopefully the CVT is set up correctly on this tractor. Hopefully. I think we are going to leave the rear PTO slip joint on this tractor. But I gotta figure out something with the rod, because it should not do that. But for some reason, they like linked it together. I'll just show you. They linked it together really, really weird. Someone did that at some point, and I'm not sure why. And they bypassed the neutral safety switch, which is whatever. Who cares? But everything is there. This seems to be a lot better at staying up in the disengaged position, but we'll see what happens when it runs. See, this one likes to slip down with the vibrations and then kick the blades on when I don't want them to be on. So this one's good at being disengaged so far. The CVT, like the forks, are in a lot better shape than this tractor was. This tractor, I bought it and they were all like worn, like thin, so I had to weld them up. Yeah. We are going to put a magneto in that motor at some point. We'll get to it. Right now, I just want to get to mowing, you know. Magneto, once the motor's out, is really easy. It's just remove this cover and boom, there it is. So you gotta remove the pulley, remove that cover, and you just follow the spark plug wire. It's under there. I'm hoping it's a sort of a universal Briggs part, because it's a 23 cubic inch, somewhere around there. It's 394 cc, single cylinder, 10 horse Briggs. And then they had the 12 horse Briggs as well. And they had an 8 horse and a 7 horse and a 6 horse. But 10 was pretty standard. I'd like to find the 12 horse motor and put it in. These motors are really good. These particular motors, they're really, really good. They really don't break. I mean, the Briggs & Stratton motors really don't break from the ones I've worked on. The old flatheads, they just run forever. Like all American flatheads, they just run forever. All the Kohler overhead valve engines, I've seen a lot more of those blown up than I have these Briggs & Stratton engines, which are a lot older. Even on the push mowers, you know, like the 80s push mowers, those little vertical crank single cylinder flathead Briggs motors, they just run and run and run and run and run. So I'm also going to switch choke and the throttle cables off of this tractor onto this one, because these ones are seized up. So basically I'm going to take them off and we're going to soak them in some penetrating oil. I'm going to go out and buy a gallon of WD-40 and just soak them in there for like a week or two. And really, really eat away at that rust. I started to get the choke cable on this a little loosened up by soaking it in motor oil and just working it back and forth, and it lubricated it. So it's definitely the cable. It's definitely savable. But yeah, and then the front wheel on this tractor, that one is falling off. But that's just a spindle issue. That's really, really easy to fix. I'm assuming the nut is just loosened up most of the way. And if I got to pull bearings, I'll just pull a hub off of this one, you know. And that tire also goes flat, and then this tire goes flat. So I'm going to be running to the farm store and getting tubes, retubing these tires. If I have to, I'll just pull one off of there for mowing. But I got to mow the lawn this weekend. Tomorrow's Thursday, and I'm working late pretty much every night. How late varies, but I'm working late every night. So I come here, I can make a little progress and get it done. So basically Saturday is going to be wrap these up, get them going, and then cut the grass in the evening, you know. But anyways, it's going well. I'm not doing any more work out here because I sprayed this paint and the fumes are pretty stiff. And this paint, for some reason, takes like 12 hours to dry to the touch. So we're going to let it sit until tomorrow night. Come back, pull that motor, which is like 10 bolts, I think. 4 to hold the trim on, 4 to hold the motor down, and then 2 for the drive shaft. And then disconnect the harness and the cables. So 10 bolts, 2 screws, and 3 screws and 2 nuts. 10, 3, and 2, and then disconnect the fuel line, which we're going to do at the tank. We're going to pull that side cover disconnected at the tank because that's got the shutoff in it, which we need. This is a tank that someone made. Guy I bought it from welded up this stainless tank, threw it in, and it works. You just can't tell when it's empties, but because it's not a factory tank, shutoff's out here, which is a lot better because from the factory, shutoff is right here underneath side cover. And there's your petcock. So that's kind of stupid that you got to take a cover off every single time. So much better. But again, I think maybe the idea was you could reach in right here and turn the fuel on and off. But we'll see when we throw this cover on. Maybe we'll delete that fuel shutoff valve, route the fuel line how it's supposed to be, and we can just reach in through there. That's actually, I just noticed that. Crazy. Simplicity, of course, thought of it. That's where the fuel shutoff goes, right there. That's what's going on this tractor. Placing the fuel line. Yeah. That's about it. This will be the grass cutter. And the other thing I didn't like about these tractors is, yeah, this one, the tires are kind of beat. And they're kind of old. This one, it's just tubes. But the tires are in pretty good shape. They're cracked, but this one's been patched before. But, I suppose these front ones aren't too great, actually. Ooh, yeah, not great. I spoke too soon. But the back ones are not awful for being the original tires for the tractor. Those are also original tires. And they all match. They all look correct. So, that's nice. We're going to run those until they explode. Then we'll get new ones, which might be expensive. This wheel look a little weird. Oh no. I'm also curious if the limited slip diff works on this one. They put a little friction pack clutch at this wheel right there. And that's your limited slip. So when that wheel starts to slip, sends power over there and it becomes a solid axle. It is a solid axle, but it acts like they're both joined on the same rod. Basically, the rod is split there, and then when it starts to slip, it binds, and whoop, and there you go. So, yeah, hoping, because it does not work on that tractor. So that is a one-wheel peeler, and when the grass is wet and you're on a hill, she slips. You gotta straighten out them wheels and come at it at a different angle. But hoping the limit slip works on this. We are going to service this before we use it. Get the motor in. I got to change the oil on that one. Check the bevel gearbox. Bevel gearbox oil. Check the tranny. Transaxle fluid. This bevel gearbox I remember being decent when I went and looked at it. Side to side play is not great, but it's not bad. It's not like this one. This one's really bad, if I remember correctly. Oh, come on. Well, I guess I can't get this one to move. Oh, that's loose. That's not good. This belt is also not looking great. And this is like an $80 belt. But, anyways. bad, but the backlash, it's not good. Can't remember how you test these, honestly. Oh yeah, that's pretty good, actually. So this is our backlash on this one. And this is our backlash on this one. So, yeah, it is junk, but it still works. It's just, it's gonna grenade if I keep running it how it is. That guard's tight. This belt might be in a little better shape. Well, you can still see a part number on this belt. That's cool. But yeah, anyways. This belt is in a little bit better shape, but I got to get a spare in case one snaps. Right now, I do have a spare. I got two okay ones. Yeah, that's about it. You notice another thing on these tractors is none of them are hydraulic lift, which I like because that ain't gonna break. Not like a hydraulic cylinder and a pump and all that. But it would be cool to have one someday. When all my cars are running and my shop is built and my airplane is built and these are restored, maybe I'll go out and find a hydraulic lift Simplicity Landlord. That'd be pretty cool. Probably sooner I'll find one, but these work great. But it would be nice in the wintertime to just have a little and then pick the snow blower up. Maybe we will who knows, maybe we'll retrofit one. You never know. There's plenty of room under there for a pump. We could run one some ways or another. Yeah, that's about it. That is about it. We're gonna, yeah, that generator's got to go back on that motor. We're gonna see how wet that paint is yet. Oh yeah, she's wet. But that is all. We'll let that dry. Get back to this tomorrow. Alrighty, so the motor swap's done. It runs beautifully. The valves are a little loud, you know, but they were in before. I'm not worried about it. I don't think they're adjustable on these motors. I think you have to replace them, which way you're going to get a replacement. So, yeah, not quite sure. I have not even seen like the inside of this motor. I haven't even pulled the plug on this motor. It just runs. If it ain't broke, don't touch it. So, both of these wheels, there's like no preload, so I got to figure out what's going on with the wheels. I got to change all the fluids. Well, I got to change the motor oil, and I got to check the fluids and everything else. Fresh gas, fuel tank doesn't leak, but the shutoff, it doesn't like leak externally, it leaks internally, so the shutoff doesn't work. So it's still there, but it's not, doesn't leak externally. So I had to put a shutoff right there, and then there's a filter, inline filter behind here. But yeah, it runs better than I remember it ever running. And I did check, we have all the gears on this tractor. I just moved it back and forth, reversed for second, third. I did not move this. That was in the slow position. I left it in the slow position. I did remove the whole rear PTO lift attachment point because that rod, you know, they had modified it to whatever that is. But I pulled the rear PTO lift. The rear attachment lift point. I messed with the steering. It's a little tighter, but still, it's worn. Big deal though. The yard's bumpy. I did some stuff on the inside. The brake return spring was broken, so I replaced that with a spring I had on the shelf. There was too long of a bolt in the steering shaft, and it was rubbing on a linkage when you would turn, so I replaced that with a shorter bolt. And it was really starting to wear through. Oh, I threw it out already because it was like halfway worn through. of a 1/4-inch bolt. So it's like an 1/8-inch pin, which for something like this is fine, but it's just going to keep wearing and then break. I got to finish getting the sheet metal on the front of this thing. And then I need to, I actually didn't check to see if the battery was charging. But when I shut the amp meter off, it looks like it's in a positive. So that's good. Yeah, it's charging, and you can hear some sort of, so pretty sure this, yeah, right there, it's rubbing on the shield. Just in the lowest speed, but I know when you put it in the fast speed, it pulls that belt tight. I do love this tractor. Is it unnecessarily complicated? Yeah, it is. You could just direct drive this, you know, fixed pulleys, and yeah, just run a standard 1, 2, 3, like they did. They had tractors like that back then, just with the 3 gears. But I like that it's unnecessarily complicated, and more importantly, the frame is 4 inches longer on these. So this is one of the cheapest larger tractors I could get. I was looking at some Bolins, which they didn't have a belt drive, they had a gear drive. They had an actual traditional engine transmission setup on the old Bolins, and that had a blower and a mower, and that was like $1,000 when I was looking at these. And I noticed, you know, there's some issues with those Bolins. You can run into problems where the transmissions break, and they're not super common. These simplicities are everywhere, as far as like the transaxles being pretty much the same. Like I've got another tractor back here. It's not the same model, but it's the same transaxle. It's the same bevel gearbox. Not besides this one, so I have 3 total. You know, I've got a couple mower decks. Mower deck, I don't need the deck. The deck is in white, and it's in way worse shape than this deck was. But the center grass diverter, I had to rob because this one was rotted out. And then if these spindles ever like become unrepairable for some reason, like that one, I pressed apart and it actually sheared the spindle almost in half. But I was able to re-weld it and put the bearings in. And they're sealed bearings, which is nice. You don't have to grease them. But for some reason, whatever, let's say I bend a spindle or I bend a shaft or something like that, I have 3 more sitting on the shelf. I got these tires are flat, so I can retube them, but these tires were out. I got tires there. I got tires on the other one. I got rims. If I ever wanted to build I'm thinking about doing a diesel swap on that one. That would be cool. But an electric start diesel engine's like $700. Like a 10-horse electric start diesel motor is $700 on Amazon. And it's some Chinese bullshit. Whereas this motor is made in Wisconsin and will always work. It's just a magneto. It's like a 2-part magneto. You have the pickup and then you have the points, and it's all motor driven. And starter generator, I gotta figure out if that needs to get greased too, because normally there's a cap on here, but there's not on this one, there's not on that one, there's no cap there in the end. But on like all the older tractors, there's a little cap, and you squirt a little oil in there, and it's a serviceable bearing. It's an extra maintenance item. So I just got to put a little motor oil in there, and actually, we'll do it right now. Give her a little drip. I don't know how often you're supposed to do this, but there you go. Give her a little drip. Service that bearing. Yeah, I'm not sure how often you're supposed to do that. But all these tractors have a lot more service items on them than the newer ones. As far as like lubricating, my mom's Cub Lowboy doesn't have a water pump because it's a thermosiphon. This doesn't have a water pump because it's air cooled. It's even simpler. But yeah, it's a water cooled with no water pump thermosiphon 1 liter tractor, and it doesn't have a water pump, but it has an idler pulley for the fan, which I mean you could get rid of if you got rid of the mechanical fan. If you ran an electric fan, you could just run the alternator belt, and that would solve that problem. But it's just an idler bearing, and you fill it with motor oil every season. So every season you have to get in there and you have to take 2 plugs out, and you have to turn it a certain way, and you have to drain the old oil out, and you have to turn it 90 degrees and then fill it up halfway to the level until it pours out, like just like on a diff. And then you have to put the plugs back in. It's another item. The steering shaft is greased every 50 hours of operation because it's just out in the open. This is a very low maintenance machine for how old it is. I mean, motor oil, bevel gearbox oil, transaxle oil. I've added a fuel filter, but originally didn't have a fuel filter. And this now running factory tank, we have the gauge, but I had to bust the lens out. So I'm gonna have to figure out a new lens or something like that. Put a little oil in the generator. Just a little. Yeah, I don't even know if that's like a full pass-through. I didn't even check. It could be just a cap pressed in. And now I just have a cup full of oil. But generally, when you put oil in them, there's a little flap. And there's one on each end. Like on the old, pre-70s gas tractors that I've worked on. There's one tractor I'd like to find. It's an old air-cooled Deutz Alice. An old green machine. It's a 2-stroke, straight 6, air-cooled diesel engine. They run forever. They do not break. And all you have to do is change the oil. And when you're done changing the oil, you mix it with gas and you can put it in the tank and you can run it. It is just a wicked cool machine. It's got all these really cool tin on it. Just super cool. So that would be a really cool tractor to have. And then an Alice Chalmers Orchard tractor is on the list, but that is such a rare tractor, and they go for so much money. Like a C model Orchard tractor would just be crazy to find. But this runs. Everybody else mowed their lawn today except me, which is fine. I'll get it mowed this week. But like I said, this runs. I gotta service it. I gotta service the front axle. I have to eventually tube the tires. I'm thinking they hold the air long enough to mow the lawn, so I'm just gonna keep airing them up until I get a chance to put tubes in them. I gotta get the sheet metal on. I gotta figure out a spring setup to hold this seat open. I can't really run a string because I get caught up in the brakes, but I want it to not touch there. And if I figure it out on this seat, I'll figure it out because I don't want it to touch there either. All these Alice Chalmers seats are dented because you open them up to service, and I don't know if there's I don't know what you would have done to hold the hood open besides carry a broomstick with you, because it didn't have hood prop rods readily available back in the day. But we removed the rear PTO because we're not going to run the tiller on this tractor. We're going to run the tiller on this tractor. Even though this bevel gearbox is going, it still works. This is going to be the snow machine, and this is going to be the tilling machine, and it'll mow if I have to. But as far as like high speed operations, this tractor's not going to see a lot of that. This tractor is a little hard to get out of third. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Something's worn. Probably a shift fork or a keyway or something like that. But, once it's in third, it seems to be fine. But, anyways, I gotta keep going on this thing because I'd like to have this thing ready to mow tomorrow after work. because tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be, I'm going to get the deck close to level tonight, I hope. And then it's going to be test it and do any adjustments I need to. And then mow the lawn. As long as everything goes well and this tractor doesn't blow up, I will get the lawn mowed. And I don't know why it would blow up. Knock on fake wood. But yeah, I need an air filter for this tractor too. Air filter's dirty. I'd like it if they were oil bath, but for how bumpy my yard is, it's probably not a good idea. But we're gonna keep working on it and just see how far I get tonight. Wife's bringing me food, which is nice. She was working on kitchen cabinets, which is also nice. And yeah, just keep working. All right, the simplicity is all set. Got the mower deck leveled, and I got it dropped, so it has the proper tip from front to back to collect the grass and shoot it out the side. It's also at I think it's a good height. I did a test mow. It seemed to be doing it a little too tall. And then I dropped it, and then it's too late for me to mow again. It'd be too loud. It does cut. I need to do some adjustments on the belt drive and on this mid PTO. It engages nice, but it squeals a lot when it engages. So there's some high resistance somewhere in the system, or the belt is not tight enough. I'm assuming the belt is not tight enough, because I'd like it to just snap on and off. But it is a worn belt, and I should be, I can adjust. I can tighten up the PTO. But it runs good, moves just fine, moves good, runs good, stops good. Brake could be tightened up a little bit, and that's a really easy adjustment. Everything on this is an easy adjustment, except for leveling the deck, which is, I say that, I now know how to do it, like the procedure. So now it's easy, but trying to figure it out, and having no guidance is difficult. Like just knowing measurements, but not knowing the order in which to do things. I know the simplicities are easier than some of the Deeres and Case and other brands of the day, because you have the two turnbuckles in the front, and then you have the two turns in the back, your two turn level screws or height screws. But and this deck might be tweaked because it's been welded a couple times, so maybe it's the deck is tweaked, but it's always sits higher on this side than it does on that side. But I got it pretty good. It's within an 1/8 of an inch side to side, or a 1/16 of an inch side to side, and then it has 3/8 of an inch front to back, or a 1/4 inch front to back, or something like that. 5/16. It's close to that, so it's within the spec. It should, within close enough spec, it should mow just fine. But yeah, runs good, starts every time. Now the battery in here is a little old, so I've got the battery tender hooked up to it, so I can just plug it in when I need to give her a charge, crank her up. But yeah, so that's set until the tires go flat and I gotta refill them. So it still needs some work, I gotta put tubes in and all that, but it's good. It's good to go. It's good to cut grass now, which is important because it'll be Thursday tomorrow, and I really got to cut the grass. But it's finally ready to do so. So tomorrow after work, I can get that done. And then we have the motor, the non-running engine up here on the bench. Replacing the magneto. Pulled the shielding and the pulley and the flywheel. These motors are really skinny. Like that's, 6 inches, 5.5 inches across. Really, really skinny. Little tiny 394cc engine, but a good engine. Of the two I own, they don't leak oil. Knock on wood, which is kind of impressive. It's not a bad design. It might be due to the fact that the sump is this cast piece, and then your gasket for that's up here. But even out of the crank seals, there's only really, a few spots this can leak oil. Crank seals, sump gasket, behind the valve cover. That's about it. But anyways, I can't get the magneto off because this screw is rounded off. I came across the screw like that. I did not round it off. You can see it's not shiny. So I gotta go get my turbo sockets from work. The nice little small 1/4-inch drive snap-on turbo sockets. I gotta go grab those so I can get that screw out, and then I can pull the shield off, finish cleaning the motor, because I have vacuumed out probably 8 pounds of gunk crammed into the fins, and crammed it here, and crammed all over everything. Compacted grass that had been spinning in the flywheel for the last 60 years, or 50 years, being scraped out. And it was interesting because the grass was this big, and you scrape it with a screwdriver, and then it swells to that big because you disturb the compacting weave. But yeah, the magneto's got to get replaced, but I gotta pull it off the motor, clean it up, get a part number. I can get a part number anywhere, but it's just an engine assembly, in the parts book. So I got to get a part number off the magneto if there is a part number, or figure something out. Magneto on the other tractor is probably good, but you got to pull the motor to get the magneto out, And if you're going to pull the motor, maybe, I think that's a 12 horse, or no, it's a 70-10. So it's still a 10 horse tractor. So it wouldn't be worth it to, it's not like I'd be getting an upgrade if I swapped motors. Except the motor's, 7 years newer. Yeah, and then I got to pressure wash this motor, get everything out of the fins. So pressure wash it once I get all the tin off, except for the upper piece of tin, because I'm not pulling the head bolts, because I don't want to replace gaskets on this thing if I don't have to. Replace the magneto, and it should be a runner, and then it can go in that tractor, which is going to become the snowblower tiller unit. And then I have plans to make an attachment for this tractor, which I'll do relatively soon and put up on YouTube. It'll be a really handy attachment to have for me, for having a gravel lot, for moving things around. It'll be convenient. But that's it. That's all I really got to say